This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. The mission of this show is to empower dreamers to live a life they love. Well, sometimes we can be living our dream life when something happens that's so devastating and so overwhelming to our being that it rocks us to our soul and causes us to ask the question, will I ever find happiness in my life ever again? This is where my guest today, Bianca Torrence, found herself 4 years ago. Bianca, a successful real estate professional, suffered a heartbreak no one should have to endure. How she overcame her grief and used it to benefit others is the subject of her chapter in the new book, Amazing Women, It's Your Time to Emerge. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Bianca.
Thank you, Debbie. So happy to be here.
Oh, I am very happy that you're joining us today. Well, Bianca, you did have to face an unimaginable tragedy, the death of your son. What was your reaction? How did you take steps to deal with that grief?
Well, this losing a child so unexpectedly for any parent is like the worst nightmare that any parent can have. For me, it was no different. I was completely heartbroken. I was devastated. I even wanted to end my life. You know, that's how painful it is. You find yourself in dark places, all alone and hopeless. It is hard to find strength. And I think for me, what helped me a lot was I had really good friends that gave me good advice. And I had a realization one day when one of my good friends, she's 92 years old now, and she said, Bianca, remember that life is like a moving cloud. It constantly shaping, taking different shape, constantly moving, and then it disappears. And at that moment, I realized that this is temporary. This pain that I'm experiencing is temporary. And everything in life is temporary. So we need to embrace it, whatever it is that we have. And I realized that I can still be grateful and happy during my chaos. I meditated a lot. I read a lot of books. I did my daily mantras. I connected with the divine source for guidance. I grounded myself with Mother Nature, and I gained a lot of wisdom, and it gave me an opportunity to restore balance and harmony back again in my life. It's a daily practice, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time sometimes, because the pain is unbearable. You know, when you lose a husband, you're a widow. When you lose a parent, you're an orphan. There's no name for a parent that loses a child. And because the pain is so devastating, it's out of order. Just thinking about it just takes me back to that moment. But I was able to turn it around by the grace of the divine power. And I'm taking one day at a time. I'm very happy right now, and I'm living a fulfilled life. Another big thing that helped me recover from imbalanced harmony was to focus on gratitude. You know, I was crying and in pain for the loss of my son because he was such an amazing guy. He was only 31 years old when he passed, and he had a full life ahead of him. I was so upset about a lot of things. And then one day I realized, I was reading this book and it talked about the afterlife. It's a book from Elizabeth Kubler. And she was talking that children often manifest after death more clearly than adults. And funny enough, I was reading the chapter, and all of a sudden, this mosquito landed on a page that said, on a sentence that said, wonderful years. And then I said, okay. And then it jumped to the page on the right, and it said, Mom, I love you, or Mom, I'm grateful. And that message for me was so clear. And it made me realize at that moment that I needed to be grateful for all the years that I had him, rather than crying for him being gone. So that was a transformation for me. So it helped me with my pain, and I was happy. I was happy that I got to have him for 31 years.
I know that at least one thing you could be grateful for in the time of grief was to focus on that. This is a show about dreams, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the dreams that you had about your son. Tell me how this helped you.
One time, right after he passed, because they were investigating his death, and honestly, there were too many inconsistencies. It was like about a couple of weeks after he passed, and I was sleeping in his room that night. I decided to go sleep in his room, and I woke up, and I don't know if it was a dream or if it was real. It felt real. He said, Mom, thank you for everything you're doing for me. I really appreciate it. And I heard it so clear. It possibly was a dream early in the morning, or his spirit just came so loud and clear that I to this moment, I just, I remember it so clear. And he does come in my dream. It's like, they call it visitations, right? He came on my dream one day. It was Mother's Day, the year after he passed. And he was just so loving, and we had such a wonderful relationship. He was like my best friend, and we were really good friends, and he was just such a wonderful guy. He came in my dream, and he told me how much he appreciated me and he loved me, and said, Mom, you're the best mom ever.
The visions that you had of your son, you said you weren't sure if they were dreams or just something that you had, but I totally believe that it was your son coming back to you and having to keep that connection with you, even though he's on a different plane now, but he's still having that connection with you.
Yes, indeed. In fact, every time I go running, because he's an Olympian and he ran track and field, and he always encouraged me to run, because I always went for walks, but he says, Mom, you should really run because that's better for you. Whenever I go work out, I can feel his presence right with me. So this is such a nice feeling, and I feel like I can probably access that whenever I need him. I understand that my son has gone on another level. His energy is still around, and he connects with a lot of people. Sometimes I get messages from him and about a relative, and he tells me, he talks to me, and then I send the text to the person. I said, by the way, this is David sending a message, not me. So it's kind of bizarre, how the connection, I know he's there and he's with me. I feel his energy many times.
You said that you've suffered other losses in your life. Have you had visions from any of your other loved ones?
Well, so when I was 31 years old, I became a widow with my two kids. My son was 6 years old and my daughter was 3 years old. And that pain was horrific as well, because that was the first loss, significant loss that I had. And I was so young. Thank God I had family around to support me. I also lost my mom later on, which was also very painful, a horrible experience. But the loss of my son was the worst pain that I can recall. But going back to the loss of my husband, I find that interesting, because the whole year that he passed, I dreamed about him every single night, to the point that I thought that I was living two lives, one at night and one during the day. And the dreams were so vivid. It's almost like he wanted me to join him. Like he was present with me every single night. I realized I was sort of numb with the pain. I didn't realize what was really going on until a year later. I realized that he had actually passed. I remember one of the last dreams that he came to pick me up on a car, and I got in the car, and then another my cousin that had also passed away. They were together, and they were giving me this little box like a gift, but I never got to open it. I woke up. I don't know where we went or what the meaning of that dream was, but I can remember this was in 92 when my husband passed away. And I still remember some of the dreams so vividly. And that was one of them.
Well, I tell you, you were such a young woman at the time, and
Yes.
go through a loss like that. But I am grateful that you were able to have these dreams and actually, in their own way, I think helped you get through this devastating time in your life.
Yeah, I think especially when Scott, my first husband, passed away, I felt that he was with me because I was having dreams every single night. Funny enough, right before he passed, he gave me this Brazilian movie about this woman that had lost her husband and then she remarried, but her husband was still coming in and having a life. So she was having a life with that husband that had passed and her new husband. And I thought that's funny that he gave me that movie he was so excited about that movie, and shortly after that he passed. I did have a lot of dreams about him that year. And you're right, I think that helped me with the loss because I felt him that he was still there.
Mm. This is just so fascinating. And we're going to get more into dreams and grief with you, Bianca Torrence, but we were going to take a short break now. We'll be right back. If you're not pleased with the trajectory of your life, the time to begin your own personal transformation is now, and your dreams can help pave the way. How? By tapping into your unvoiced confidence. What is unvoiced confidence, you say? It's the acceptance of your abilities and qualities. It's a state of mind coming from liking and even loving yourself, and feeling free to say or do anything you want without concern for the judgment of others. You were born confident, but may have had it chipped away little by little by the negative self-beliefs you've picked up over the years. If you're looking for the heightened energy, clarity of thought, and the feeling of being more alive that comes from self-confidence, you can rediscover it by paying attention to your dreams. Need some help doing this? Go to my website, thedreamcoach.net, and sign up for my complimentary dream discovery session. I can help show you how your dreams can help you return to the confident person you were always meant to be. Again, go to thedreamcoach.net. thedreamcoach.net.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're speaking with Bianca Torrence about grief. Bianca, one of the things that you said earlier was that you were helped in the beginning by being able to talk to your friend. I think you said she was 92 years old who helped you get through this. And I just want you to speak to the whole idea of the importance of having somebody to talk to share the grief with. Because I think a lot of people, when they find themselves having a loss, really don't know what to do. They feel afraid to talk about it or feel that, nobody wants to talk about it with them. So speak to that, if you would.
I think that that's true. At the beginning, I didn't even want to socialize. I didn't want to go anywhere because whenever I saw somebody started crying and they wanted to hug me, and I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to have and repeat that sadness feeling over and over. So I secluded myself and I was just dealing on my own. Maybe I should have embraced the fact that people care and they love me. But when you're in such pain, you're in this tornado in the middle of it, and you don't know how to deal with life, with people, with anybody, with yourself. I started going to meditation while my friend Carol Moss, she did a guided meditation on Thursdays, and we became really good friends. She has been sort of like my proxy mom. Whenever I had problems, I would call her and talk to her. She also had a loss. She lost her daughter. Her daughter was 40 years old when she lost, but nevertheless, it's your child. So she could relate. She could relate to that pain. I'm so grateful that I found people that I can be myself and be comfortable. And I was just doing a lot of meditation, which helped me a lot. I did my daily mantras. I had my cousin who does Reiki, and she checked my chakras constantly and balanced my energy because I was in a state of emergency. I think all of that helped doing my daily mantras, and it was like a miracle on the making doing my mantras. It changed my whole perspective on things. I went inwards and I allowed for things to unfold by themselves and not question, not make judgments, and just let it be. And if I was sad one day, I just welcome the sadness. Whenever any emotion that comes in, just embrace it. Your body is a host for that emotion, and they come to you for a reason. And so when you deny it or you rush it through and you're pushing it away, you create problems for yourself. So everything has to go through, and I've learned to just let things be, unfold. And when I go inwards, I listen to my inner voice, and I learn to trust for the answers to come in. Usually they're right on. Whenever I have a bad day, I go for a hike or I go for a beach walk, and that sort of puts me in a right place, in a right state of mind. Because when you have a loss, you don't move on, you move forward. I've learned to be grateful that I had such an amazing son, I had such an amazing husband, an amazing mother, and all the losses that I've had. I've learned to be grateful for them being in my life here and be able to share their energy and know them and embrace the teachings that I got from all of them.
I mean, gratitude is such an important
Tool.
It really is. You're not dwelling on the negative and going into a whole negative downward spiral. Actually, the same thing goes on with dreams. When I talk about dreams, I say that the way to really embody the message of the dream is to take an action on it. Well, you actually took action as a result of the tragedy of your son's death and did something to honor his memory. Tell us about what you did.
I was very frustrated with the investigation. Like I said, my son was an Olympian track and field runner star. And I believe that the way he died, there were a lot of inconsistencies with the investigation. And I kept asking why this and why that, and they immediately just assumed that he drowned in the pool. And it was a condominium pool. My son was a big advocate for clean sports. In fact, USADA in the anti-doping world anti-doping agency, they asked him to be an ambassador for clean sports in South America. That was right before he died. I think he helped bust a coach that was doping the Olympians, and he was getting death threats. And I didn't know this till after he passed. His girlfriend told me. And then, so I knew right away that there was something wrong with the investigation. But I was so marginalized with the detectives. They probably thought, oh, this woman is calling, they're making a lot of noise, because I called all the higher ups, to get questions and results. And bottom line, they closed the investigation. And at that point, because I was trying to keep it open to find the truth, I just had to let it go, because it was killing me trying to prove something. And I even talked to the FBI, and the FBI said, you know what, if the police, they have to call us if they need help. But this was the police in Arizona, and I just had to let it go. I believe in divine justice, and I decided, the truth is gonna come out. maybe not in my lifetime, but the truth is going to come out. It always does. So knowing that truth, I just had to let it go. And I decided to create this foundation, which is called the David Torrance Legacy Foundation, that my son wanted to help underprivileged athletes and help them train with integrity. Because when people take this dope, they dope, for better sport enhancements for better results. It's like cheating, it is actually cheating. And he was big on that. He was an advocate for the athletes, for clean sports, and he wanted to help the kids in my country. I'm a native from Peru. So I decided to create a foundation, and right now we've got a lot of support, and I'm doing something good for others that need the help and the resources. And that gives me a lot of satisfaction. And because I have a daughter as well, and she's been my rock through this whole thing. She's also a founder of the organization.
It's a way to keep his memory alive and do something that he would have wanted to do himself. I want to get back to the subject of dreams, because I understand that dreams also played a role in your relationship with the man in your life. And so tell me what happened.
Interesting enough, my fiance, we were supposed to get married in 2017. And in February of 2017, he lost his son, his 34-year-old son. And 6 months later, I lose my son, David. And those two tragedies in less than 6 months basically killed us both, that we were not able to deal with the grief. 3 years later, we decided to go our own ways, because when you're experiencing grief, there's a lot of emotions, and not every emotion comes in order, and everybody grieves a different way. A father has a different relationship with their son. A mother, there's a lot of different ingredients that take part on your grieving journey. For example, most parents feel a little bit of guilt because we always want to do the best for our kids. And maybe one little thing that you thought you didn't do, or you did, that, that incident can come in your mind and can play a role that it's added to your grief. And like I said, everybody experiences different emotions. They're all the emotions. There's books on the 5 stages of grief and all that, but the reality is that all those stages don't come in order. And I think one of the stages is anger. And there was a point that we were very angry. So we decided to break up. And then shortly after that, the pandemic happened in March. And we didn't talk the whole time. I just let him go completely. And I was just focused on rebuilding myself and I was focused on my healing journey. So what happened was, one day, right before Thanksgiving, I have a dream about him, and it was very clear. He came over to pick me up and he says, "Bianca, we're gonna go." And he was so happy. And I was thinking, that's a weird dream, because he probably hates me. We don't even talk and whatever. Anyway, so that day I woke up thinking like that. And then that night I'm in the bathroom, and all of a sudden I hear this big noise, and the TV fell down from the wall. Like the mount of one side fell from the wall. And I thought, that's so weird. John, my fiance, was on my mind quite often. And I was thinking, there's something going on. Maybe he's not doing well, whatever. I ended up sending him the pictures, because it was his TV and it only fell on one side, which was kind of bizarre. I just texted the photos, and he said, "Can I come over and fix it?" And I said, okay. So he came over, and he couldn't figure out why the mount broke on one side. We're bewildered by it. And this little, out of all the things that I had on my dresser, there was this little angel. That's the only thing that broke. So when he came over, he was such a nice guy. And I was like, oh my God, this is the guy that I knew and that I fell in love with. And he was so wonderful. And right before he left, he says, I'm going to come and fix it. And I'm going to buy you a little angel to replace that. We hugged and he said, Bianca, I can't stop thinking about you. I miss you so much. And I said, I haven't stopped loving you. And we knew at that moment that we belonged together. And we haven't been apart since then. I've never felt this happy in my life with any relationship. And we both figured out that it was a force from beyond that made the TV fall. Because if that TV didn't fall, we would still not be talking. Isn't that crazy?
It is, but oh, that is such a touching story on which to end this. I just have one final question to ask you is, how can people find out more about you and contact you if they want to learn more about you?
Well, there's on the book, they can go to the website, dtlf.org. That's my son's foundation, and they can put their contact there, or on my real estate website also, Bianca@realtor.com. And I'm writing a book on finishing the book, continuing my writing, because I feel like there's a lot to share, a lot of stories that are coming to my mind that very inspiring.
Well, I can't wait to read it. So please send it to me when you're done.
Talking about dreams, I did have a dream. David and Jesse, who is my fiance's son that passed, they never met, okay? I had a dream about them like maybe 3 months after, or maybe a month after the TV fell. And they were both laughing. They were together and they were both laughing. And I knew that they were the ones that made the TV fall. It's crazy, but that's what John and I think. But we're happy because now we're back together.
Oh, that is just a wonderful, wonderful situation. Well, Bianca, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate you so much. And I'm going to be talking to you again about all the dreams that I have. So we're going to have more conversations about that.
Oh, please do. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
Well, we've been speaking with Bianca Torrence about overcoming grief. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, follow me, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. And if you're on Clubhouse, join me in my club, Club Dreams, where I host weekly rooms on all aspects of dream work. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.